Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here for vExpert Daily again. A little bit of change. We actually had some panels, some discussions before we started. So normally this is the first thing for the day. So it was weird when I walked over and people were talking. Again, I'm Mike Letschin. Obviously for the third day here at VMware, kind of wrapping some things up. I think the floor closes today, I'm pretty sure. And then there's some events this evening, some events from last night. We'll go through that. Some of the announcements, just kind of a little bit of a panel on what we think's happening, what has happened, how things are going. So before we start, as always, we'll do some introductions. So Jason, you're up first.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Shiplett. I'm the principal architect for client virtualization solutions at HPE SimpliVity.
I'm Ken Nalbone. I'm on Twitter at Ken Nalbone, and I'm a solutions architect for a VAR.
You can say which VAR.
SIS.
Yeah. We're not like biased that you can't say who you work for.
Okay.
I mean, he said SimpliVity. We already didn't like that. Yeah. So.
My name is Frank Milisi. I work at a financial institution in Boston. My Twitter handle is VM_FrankM.
Well, welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me today. So I think I'll kick it off with, obviously, as we're a couple days into the show now, it's always interesting when I go from day one of the show and people have this anticipation of what are going to be the announcements, what are they going to say. We never really know. To now, a couple days in, now people are digesting the announcements. How much is it for this? How much is for this? Kind of overview. What do you guys think? How do you think the announcements were? Were they exciting? Were they innovative? Were they intriguing? Were they meh?
I think one of the biggest announcements was that Pat Gelsinger said on-premise.
Yes.
That blew up Twitter everywhere. Yeah, man, it was craziness. And but I mean, the AWS, the integration with AWS was definitely, I think, the biggest announcement of VMworld, at least in the US.
So what's the take on that though? Because I think it's interesting that they've been announcing that it's going to happen. Still don't know how real everyone feels it really is. Like you start to see pieces.
I think it's really real at this point. The thing for me, I think it's going to be something that a lot of, especially like federal, enterprise, those kind of customers are going to be very, very interested in getting into it. Your SMBs, your mid-market customers, the minimum entry is kind of big for dipping your toes in. It's not something you can just plop down a credit card and say, I want to spin up some VMs on VMC on AWS. You have to make a pretty substantial investment, and that's something that's going to hold a lot of those smaller customers back.
Is it a roadmap off of on-prem vSphere or to get off of vSphere in general for people? I
don't know. I think it's a great way to get not necessarily completely out of the managing data center business, but it's certainly a great step. It's an interface and a usability, and it's something that a lot of us as virtualization administrators or consultants or architects are used to. It's the same stack that we've been using for the last few years, so it's a good kind of middle ground. But as the integration progresses, and it's not just vSphere and NSX and vSAN, it's the whole stack on top of all the AWS services. There's not really that integration today. Once that actually happens, I think there's going to be, that gives you more of a bridge to fully leveraging AWS.
I feel like it's we're kind of getting to a point where hardware matters less with hyperconvergence, and this takes it a step further. Not only are you not worrying about hardware, you're not worrying about space, cooling, power, any of that. And now you're just going to run the software in whatever AWS and.
But I could do that and offload to a regional VAR or a smaller service provider that's been running vSphere. I mean, we can replace. We did that 15 years ago almost. We were 10 years ago. We built a full cloud that was running vSphere on the back end, and we were able to like I said, I mean, that's what the whole point of things like vCloud Director were, to be able to get service providers to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I used to work for a vCAN provider.
How is that different than for the end user to go to one of those providers versus going to Amazon?
Well, not many of them give you the vSphere interface. They give you the vCloud Director portal or their own custom portal, so there's that, I guess.
Do you care?
If I was a customer, I would want the interface that I'm used to, at least initially, but maybe not. Maybe we're just getting away from that and accessing everything via APIs instead. Anyway.
I think that's getting back to who the intended user of this service is, and that's larger organizations. The ability so a vCAN provider may not have the ability to add resources as quickly and efficiently as AWS. If I'm a large government or maybe a big SLED or enterprise customer, and I want to not necessarily like forklift moved VMs up, but I want to spin up a new SAP integrate or implementation or something along those lines, and I want to toss it out there, and that's going to need to be able to scale pretty wide pretty quickly. That's not something that every provider is going to be able to do, and not something that Amazon has the resources to bring to bear to actually push that to fruition.
Yeah, and I think this was more than anything about VMware actually showing that it's trying to adapt to the new cloud experience. I mean, realistically, I might be in the minority of thinking this. There's never going to be every company that's going to be in the cloud. There's always going to be on-prem at some reason or some.
I don't think you're in the minority.
Yeah,
there,
well,
right?
I mean,
does anyone here think that every company is going to move completely to the cloud? Anybody?
The developers
No,
I talked to
no,
at an
good.
AWS meetup all think that nobody's building data centers anymore, and I think, well, you guys don't know anything about infrastructure, clearly.
Yeah,
I'm going to say my paycheck still clears.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are still building data centers.
Yeah. I think this is just a way for VMware to actually adapt to the new market that they can actually get into with AWS, which I think is fantastic that they're actually showing progress in that field, but still keeping to their roots that they have of supplying that solid on-premise solution for virtualization.
On-premise, everybody drink.
So that's interesting. I think one of the things that if you take a company and you say the easiest way to describe a company is 2 to 3 words. Now, historically, you look at VMware, and what 2 or 3 words would you pick to? How do you describe who VMware is?
Running virtualization, running virtual machines.
A virtual machine company.
Yeah.
Right.
VM vendor.
Is that still the way you describe VMware now?
I mean, to a pretty large degree, I think so. They're certainly positioning themselves to get away from that paradigm, but if you look at the customer base as a whole, not very many of them are looking at huge IoT like Toyota is with Fujitsu and VMware. We don't have, if we're talking about just the sheer scale of customers, not necessarily number of workloads or, something along those lines, but the just sheer number of, the SMBs, the small SLED, the especially healthcare and finance, they're still in the business of running VMs, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, we still have mainframes being shipped by IBM, So
as a company, their base is still there, their virtualization. But then are they spreading themselves out too many different ways? They're doing apps that are more cloud native. I was talking to Skylar yesterday, and he said he was trying to explain to somebody some of these cloud native apps that they had announced that he's been working on for the last year or so. And they were blown away when he goes, no, there's no VMware infrastructure underneath of it. It's actually just cloud native. And they're like, wait, what?
I think there's right now it's kind of the innovation point for VMware. They're spreading out in so many different tentacles into different markets. I think in the next maybe 5 to 10 years, you'll kind of see them contract that back a little bit, maybe start to focus on more of like NSX and more of the actual core VMware product, and kind of branching out and touching everything at this point.
So are they just throwing spaghetti against the wall right now to see what
But they're
sticks?
doing it very well. I mean, it usually sticks pretty well. 9 times out of 10, I would imagine it sticks to the wall. But I mean, there's going to be times when people aren't going to use that product to the fullest, and it's not going to become a viable option for them anymore to actually keep supporting it. And you're seeing that, for a way back example, like Windows vCenter, for example. That's going away now, thank God. And they realized that when they went out to the virtual appliance,
you may be in the minority with some people that still love the Windows vCenter. Right?
I know.
Yeah, no. If you still love the Windows vCenter, you haven't had the VCSA yet.
Who here loves the Windows vCenter?
right here.
Thank
this guy
you.
right here.
Thank you.
I've been running Windows vCenter for 10 or 11 years, and
Why do you love it
it's-
instead of the
it's-
VCSA?
So I don't not love the VCSA. I mean, it's easy to deploy. It's easy to manage. It's a different skill set, right? I mean, managing a Linux box is different from managing, a SQL server and a Windows, 2008 or whatever virtual machine that runs your vCenter.
Do you feel like people need the Linux skill set with the 6.5 VCSA?
So
They
I
made
mean,
it very hands-on.
this may be me treading into an area I don't know tons about. Sorry. the the problem there being, so having been an administrator for a long time, and troubleshooting database roll-up issues, like I know how to do that in Microsoft SQL because it's something that I've done a ton of. It's not something I would know how to go into a vPostgres database and try and troubleshoot that without being on the phone with support. And that's if you're looking at getting a problem turned around quickly. If I have the knowledge and I can do it myself, and I don't have to spend hours on the phone with support, then that's from a recoverability perspective, that's a huge deal. The tribal knowledge around Windows vCenter is, I think at this point, still much larger than vCSA.
I mean, I've worked with both Windows vCenters and vCSAs, and I understand what you're saying because I know the Windows operating system very well. It's pretty easy to navigate when you've been doing it for a couple of years. But the thing about the vCSA is the tech that's actually going there, the support that goes in there, once you know where the logs are, once you know where to look properly for that particular issue, it really is like that. And the service restarts, you don't have to do it in any particular order, you just do your Linux command and it goes through.
I would absolutely concede the point that I've had to get in and troubleshoot Windows vCenter a lot, and that may be to the point of its fragility. And
the troubleshooting factor is definitely worse on the Windows side.
I do a lot of performance testing, and we take environments up and down quite a bit. Deploying vCSAs is something that's super easy. It's something that I just haven't had to troubleshoot. So.
And I guess that's the point I was making. I don't feel like you need to troubleshoot the vCSA as often as you had to a Windows. And when you do,
it's a little bit worse. I think when you actually do have to go in there and actually troubleshoot the appliance, I think probably 6 times out of 10 it's actually worse than if you had to troubleshoot a Windows box.
So I think this actually does lead to some of the things we've seen on the announcements. All the stuff, putting it in AWS, some of this cloud stuff, you're not troubleshooting things like that anymore because it's not really an option on it. So obviously they want to take it that direction anyway. I still may be partial to the fat client at times. That one I'm not going to try to deny.
Everybody loves the fat client. I love the fat client.
It just works.
I just love Power CLI instead. Anytime I was waiting for the web client to load, I just fire up Power CLI and figure out how to do the thing I wanted in Power CLI, so the next time it came up I didn't have to wait on the web client.
So your method of learning Power CLI was force yourself to use the web client?
Yeah. Well, no, it was, I'm stuck with the web client.
It's an interesting tip. Want to learn Power CLI, try the web client.
Yeah, gouge your eyes out too when you're at it.
Yeah. So I've never heard that tip before, but hey, why not?
You're waiting for it to load. You can get in Power CLI and figure it out quicker.
I like the theory.
Like education via hostage situation.
Yeah, there you go.
How do I get that person escaped? I'll take them hostage first. Yeah. So what did you guys think? So the floor was a little bit different setup this year. Obviously with VMware away in the back. A little section on the side for AirWatch that didn't seem to get a lot of traffic that I saw, but I wasn't overly surprised.
I haven't seen it yet.
I have a little bit of flow,
to be honest with you. I think AirWatch kind of speaks for itself. It is.
Well, it's a lot of little vendors around AirWatch in that section that
that's
it might have just been when I was walking around. It didn't seem a lot of action going on in that section. What did you guys think of the floor in general this year? Any things that jumped out at you? Products, companies, the way certain companies reacted or did different things?
So I've been tweeting about this all day for the past couple of days, and I actually like that the Solutions Exchange is actually in the same area as the VM Village. If you remember last year, the VM Village was upstairs and the Solutions Exchange was downstairs, which was kind of a pain because you had to, if you were blogging, you had to get to the table, plug in, go all the way downstairs, do what you need to do, come back upstairs if you need to edit video or something like that. And another cool feature that I found about this year is they actually have the small vendors innovation section over there, and there are some awesome vendors over there. That's where I've been spending most of my time, and that's really cool that they kind of highlight and give those guys rewards this year and have booths that they can still afford and not spend a fortune on and still be a part of the show and an active member. And there's some, if you haven't looked it up yet or been over to the innovation center, it's definitely one of the places to hit before you hit the big vendors.
So I want to touch on a couple of those in a sec. I think your comment about having the consistency all the way across is, I agree. That's so much better.
Yeah.
And it's been bad at times in the U.S. The Europe show, at one point, they were literally on 2 separate corners of the convention center.
That's horrible.
And that's essentially walking from MGM to here, for those of you who have not been to that conference center in Barcelona. It's insane. Yeah. And that's how you had to go back and forth to get from the Solutions Exchange to the hang space, basically. So I agree. That's been
Yeah,
it's so much nicer.
This is really a cool setup that they did here, and they're really focusing on community here this year more than last year. Which
I can't really compare it to last year because it's actually my first VMworld, but I really like it. I've spent most of my time in these two areas, the Solutions Exchange and the VM Village, and I tried to make a couple sessions, but I know they're recorded, and I've just really enjoyed talking to people and having conversations, whether it's with the community or a couple of vendors that I want to check out. So it's been perfect. This has been the conference for me, not so much that.
I think that's a pretty common thing for a lot of guys. And I mean, that's one of the recommendations I think for years I've made to people is
one of the most things.
Meet the people, get the names. If there's a session you want to see somebody, go see their session. Try to, at least if not, connect with them some other time while you're here.
I don't go to VMworld for the breakout sessions. I go here for the networking and the people. I mean, seeing these talks of people at the Tech Talks, or seeing some of the vendors do not really sales talks, but Tech Talks is really the gold that's at VMworld. And meeting the people and meeting fellow bloggers, or meeting people that have read your blog or that they have a blog they're trying to get, is really where I think the gold is of VMworld.
So I'm curious, in the hang space area, have you guys done any of the extra things that they put out there supposed to be fun? There's the games and the Lego space.
I made a Lego guy.
You made a Lego guy
too, yeah.
I drank coffee.
Yeah.
That was coffee. Well, that's a good start.
In
fairness, if you want coffee, you go let the vendor pitch you on the 7 vendors that have actual coffee bars.
Well, I mean, they have really good coffee here. I mean, it's a solid organic coffee. It's nice. I like it.
Really good. That's a stretch.
That's a plot. No, come on. Come on,
it's not the worst conference coffee I've ever had,
yeah,
but
it's not the
I'm
best,
not going to say.
It's not Starbucks.
I mean,
but the
it's
people
like the
that work here are
7-Eleven
really
of
friendly.
coffee.
Yeah, the people that are here, I got greeted 5 times walking to lunch the other day. It was fantastic.
Hey, how you guys
They're like,
doing?
"Oh, you look great today." I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much. I look like crap." Just walking through, it was fantastic. They really brighten your mood.
So, what do you guys think? That you mentioned the kind of the smaller innovators on things. Was there a company or two that stood out, that jumped out, either in that space or at all on the floor that you guys saw?
I don't know. I think there was a lot of overlap in some of the smaller vendors. There's a lot of folks out here who are doing monitoring and automation and that end of things. And there's a ton of innovation to be done there. But I think the market is a little bit cloudy at this point.
Okay.
No pun intended.
One of the vendors that I absolutely loved this year, and they actually won the VMworld Finalist Award, is Wheela. That company is amazing. From what they do, the interface.
So for those who didn't figure out, that's how you pronounce UILA.
Yeah. It took a couple times.
Wheela, which if you asked them if they would actually talk about it, it's Hawaiian for lightning because it lights up the cloud.
Who knew?
So the guys last night, he finally explained that. I was like, oh, if you said that, I would have known. Thanks.
Yeah, they're a really awesome root cause analysis and analytics software. That they are a fairly new company, and they have features and they have bugs.
So they were here last year, by the way.
They were, yeah.
And
but
nobody knew.
They're still a new company, and I did a webinar with them probably a couple months ago just to kind of get what the product was, and I think that it is an absolutely fantastic product, and probably one of the best smaller companies at VMworld this year that I've found.
They've done a great job trying to engage the community.
They really have.
As well.
They really have. They've reached out to the vExpert community, which was fantastic.
They did a lot with vExperts. They were a sponsor for VM Underground. They've been a sponsor for a bunch of different things along the way. So they've really.
And I think
they're doing vMugs left and right.
I think it's really that they're really seeing the results from that as well, because there's a lot of people that really root for the smaller innovators of VMworld and the tech industry in general.
They're hungry. It's nice to see a company that's hungry here.
They really are. And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. No, it's great to see those kinds of companies step up into kind of the void that's been left by some of the, there's been some consolidation in the market in the last couple of years. It seems like the sponsorships in the vMugs has gotten kind of stale. So seeing, not that it's not appreciated, but you see the same presentation over and over and over.
Do you think that's because of the price of what they're charging nowadays?
I would probably say so.
Yeah,
So
I think it's a price thing.
Budgets are crunched everywhere, especially for marketing. So seeing those smaller vendors step up like that, especially when it's such, if it's expensive for somebody like an HPE or a Veeam or those kind of vendors, talk about
how much more expensive it is for the small guys.
As a percentage of their
every
overall
dollar
marketing
counts
budget.
for them when every $10 counts for the bigger companies.
So
it
speaking
really
of
makes
spending tens and hundreds and thousands of dollars, what about the companies that had multiple large spaces? Some of the companies that have
that was interesting. It didn't really change my mind about their products, but Kevin
Durant didn't make you want to go buy Rubrik?
Not necessarily. But you know,
Again,
for
if you guys
people,
want to go by rubric.
I mean, has anybody not heard of rubric yet? Because if they haven't, they have now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the whole floor, and if you're a company that I've heard of before, chances are I'm not going to sit for one of your webinars because it's usually the same over and over again. You know, if they have a new product, they will not wait until VMworld to actually show you that product. They'll put out a press release 10 minutes after they release it, and it really is going back to the small innovators, the people who are the future of our field and the future of our tech, that make a difference at VMworld. So, I mean, they have the bigger booths. It doesn't mean they have the bigger ideas, though.
So you're at one of the bigger companies.
I am.
So, what's your take on it?
So it's
Don't get fired.
Not
me,
as a company statement.
So
He is
What
not
is
representing his
HPE's
company with this
position?
yeah.
statement.
So it's, all right. So, I mean, for me, it's a question of ROI for that kind of investment. So, floor space is not cheap. So, having a big booth and then a basketball court, you know, am I going to get my money back on that?
We chose not to exhibit this year because we didn't think we were getting our money out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's you know, if they do the metrics and they get the money back, you know, they're getting visibility. But I think that's kind of back to your point. If you haven't heard of that vendor, then, you know, that's, I think, maybe a good thing. But if you know, the name recognition is kind of at a level at which that investment's not going to be great, then, you know, that's really just something they have to look at.
Yeah, and I think if you've got a 20 by 30, a 30 by 30, you're big enough to get, like, you'll get the name recognition at that point. Do you need to have two of them? I think it's a bit overkill, in my mind.
I mean, it's kitschy, and people stop by, and there was a huge line over there the other day when Katie was there, and it's a great way to get people to come in and at least see your name. But are you gonna have a good technical conversation with somebody at that kind of event?
At that point, though, are you just looking for, you have this number of leads and you're hoping
it's
eyeballs, a percentage game.
Eyeballs and getting numbers into a database for ISRs to crank out calls at some point.
Yeah, I agree. So now there's obviously the conferences, the sessions. We said there's not a ton. Were there any specific sessions over the last couple of days that really did intrigue you that you managed to get to?
Yeah, I went to a vSAN session led by Josh Fidel and Ron Scott Adams, and it was more than the day one stuff. It was really deep in how to architect it, and it's really useful information for me to understand as I'm trying to sell vSAN to customers what things to keep in mind to make sure it's performing optimally, stuff like that. I know I can record it later, but I know those guys. I'm going to go say hi to them and, you know, see what they had to say.
Yeah, a lot of times it's more you know them or you want to get to know them or see them or whatever.
Yeah.
What about the hands-on labs? You guys doing any hands-on labs?
I haven't made my way there yet.
No.
Do you do them while you're here, or do you just wait to do them afterwards?
I wait to do them afterwards. Yeah, I mean,
that's not the best use of my time while I'm here.
This is 3 days of jam-packed everything you could possibly think of, from just being in Vegas to the parties to, you know, trying to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning after you have a hangover or after you've been drinking all night.
I was up late working. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I was up late blogging too. Yeah.
Was that tweet or two?
Yeah, just a tweet or two, drunken, incoherent tweets. But
we do not advocate drunk marketing.
No, I don't market anything.
Marketing while under the influence, as I was told once. That's not a good thing to do.
Most of the sessions that I've been going to have just been the vBrownBag and the TechTalks. Everything else is recorded, even though this is recorded. But this is kind of where the goal is, getting to meet the speakers afterwards, having to have a chat with them, and then you can't really replace or record the conversations that you have with the vendors, or even if they're not trying to sell you anything, just having a good conversation.
You never know later in the year who you're going to need to send a message to. Hey, can you help on this? Whatever.
I mean, I think of the time that I spend here. You know, it's just like allocating budget for a project, right? You have so many minutes that you can spend doing, you know, a number of activities. Where are you going to get the best return for that investment?
Yep.
You know, it's going to be the conversations. It's going to be, you know, I love the hands-on labs. I've learned a lot from using them over the years, but they're available all the time.
Yeah, I don't have to do them here.
I can look at sessions afterwards. I mean, it's going to be on my time, but at that point, it's going to be something that I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and wander into a session like I would have maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Right. I mean,
here. And that's partially a capacity problem because, you know, a lot of the sessions fill up pretty quickly, especially the really popular ones. But, you know, getting the most out of the show is, you know, budgeting your time in a way that it's going to benefit you down the road, and that's going to come out of making contacts with people.
Exactly.
You know, if you're looking for a job, this is one of the best places that I've seen to talk to people about, you know, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? And oh, well, we're looking for somebody for XYZ. You might be a good fit for that. Or just making those contacts and getting that into your virtual Rolodex, and you get into a situation where you need to talk to somebody about
that company they're exhibiting to, by the way.
Yeah.
Virtual Rolodex.
Okay. I didn't know that was an actual thing.
Definitely not.
Okay. So
It's called your address book.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about the top 10 reasons to go to VMworld, and number one was the networking opportunities, and number two was for the actual sessions that we have here, the community sessions. It really is invaluable.
So we've only got 2 minutes left. So part of the networking side of things is obviously all the events that go on outside that are not VMware things. What was the best thing you got to so far? What was the best event?
It's the vExpert party. Not everybody can get into that, I know, but that was low key because not everybody and a lot of people. All the people that I know from the community that I haven't been able to put a face to the name yet, I got to meet them. I got to play some pinball and just hang out.
Yeah, it was cool. We all talk on Slack all the time, and it's really nice to put the face to the name. And we spent probably $90 on trying to get stuffed animals last night, and it was.
I think there's a challenge. There's a challenge though when it's a party that you have to take a shuttle to. On it, because especially if you've been here for multiple years in a row, you have 6 things you need to try to get to that night.
Yeah.
And if I can get to one and you kind of map it out of which ones can I walk to, that I can stay here for 20 minutes and it'll take me 20 minutes to get there. I can go there for an hour and I can go here and I can go here.
Yeah.
When it requires getting on a bus to go someplace, that really screws that whole plan up.
Yeah.
How about you? What was the best thing you got there?
Honestly, we were at the HP customer appreciation party last night. Sorry for the plug. It was awesome. It was so great. You guys should have been there. Honestly, the big events are
karaoke.
It was
you
karaoke.
gotta like karaoke. I stopped in. We didn't stay long.
Yeah. So those bigger events are great for going out and having a good time. I find most nights I'm still gonna meet with a smaller group of folks. Like last night, went to a cigar bar at the Caesars and just hung out and talked about nerdy stuff for a couple of hours.
Yep.
And, the connections that you make there and that you keep over time are I think more valuable than getting my ears blasted by some karaoke.
I agree. Well, guys, thank you again for joining me for the day. Thank you all. There's obviously a whole nother list of things going. Hopefully, remember, it's on the schedule builder for here as well as for Barcelona. And we will see you here next year.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.